What
All
is going on,
right,
everybody?
so
Congo, a
no,
Star Trek
stop it, Fives. We
adventure.
have to actually get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Session 2 of Star Trek Congo. If you don't know who we are, or you're coming in from, say, a certain Modifius post on Facebook, welcome, hello. We're an actual play podcast, that is, as you might expect, using the Star Trek Adventures role-playing system by Modifius. We are set in post-STO, or Star Trek Online, specifically in the year 2415. And our ship, the USS Kongo, is a Trident class that is flying as part of an extended Babylon fleet in the Sabine Expanse. Now, don't stress if you haven't watched any of my other games or if you have to leave early. The VODs for Congo and pretty much all of my games are on YouTube and most of the popular podcast solutions. What I would say is you don't have to watch previous stuff to enjoy each of my sessions, but it helps catch those inside jokes that, kind of evolve over time. Announcements this week. The big one is that for the month of May, I will be donating half of all bits, subs, donations, and so on to ASAN, or the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. And if you'd rather donate directly to the cause, you can do !charity in chat, and it should provide a link there. But with that out of the way, I'm eager to get straight into play, so let's quickly go around and have everyone introduce themselves, starting with the captain.
Hello everyone, my name is Matthew. I play the Bajoran captain Lee Tobin.
Oh yes, my name is John. I live in Seattle, and I play the ensign / chief engineer, Jaro Terrell.
Are you mocking me?
No, not at all. Would I ever mock my captain?
Verily I say. You may address me as Aaron. The character I am embodying this evening is Lieutenant Commander Dotig, the Tellarite Science Officer of the aforementioned USS Kongo.
Watney. Doctor. That's it. I'm just kidding. I'm Watney. I play Dr. LL, the CMO. You can find me on Twitch at Doc Watney. That's all.
Audience, you can obviously tell that we've been away for a while because we've forgotten how to do this. I'm Dag. I play the ship's resident ex-Borg / Augment security chief. No idea what's happening tonight. Barely an idea of what happened 3 weeks ago. But if you want to talk about it, hit me up on Twitter at TrekNexus.
And if you don't know me by now, I'm ELH the Game Master. And today we're going to do sort of a hybrid log. Captain Lee, I believe you have a opening log, and then I'll add to it to set the scene. So go ahead and take it away.
Captain's Log Supplemental. While responding to a distress call from the independent outpost on the Y-class planet Votov III, rich with benamite crystals used to power quantum slipstream drives, we discovered that the heterogeneous mining consortium with prospecting rights to this world was suffering from a mysterious series of containment and structural failures to their habitat domes. Investigation by our away team uncovered the presence of growing microfractures in the structures generated by bombardment with high levels of toxic theta radiation, whose source remains unidentifiable. An ill-timed containment failure jeopardized the lives of the away team, but I was able to beam them back from the surface before they suffered any permanent harm. The enigma of this mining world has been compounded by the arrival of an unidentified cephalopoidal vessel, leaking extensive amounts of theta radiation, which has just opened fire on the Kongo without any provocation. I'm making my way to the bridge with the other members of the senior staff close behind me.
Very nice. And that is exactly where we begin today's session, with the Kongo at red alert as the senior staff spill onto the bridge. Of course, Ensign Rowan gets the hell out of the way very quickly, yields your seat, and I'm missing Alel. Let's get Alel in here. As everybody comes onto the bridge and looks at the view screen, what we see outside is for lack of a better term, a giant space squid. Now, when I say space squid, I mean it has the general shape of a squid, so, kind of that long cylindrical body that sort of tapers at the top with like fin or kind of wavy fins that sort of circle around the top. It has several tentacles that sort of drift behind it with suction cups on the end of them. But that's where the difference starts to become more noticeable. Instead of a classic, say, Earth squid, where it's very long and very slim, this one is, for lack of a better way to put it, it's very thick. It is almost like, I'm trying to think of a good size comparison here. So the squid is obviously as large as the Congo, so it's a big space creature. But if you were to shrink it down to like a normal squid size on Earth, the tentacles themselves would be as round as baseball bats. So these are big, thick tentacles. Probably would make for good calamari, all things considered, but that's neither here nor there. What I'm getting at is that you're looking at these tentacles, and crackling all around them in spiral fashion is lightning bolts or otherwise energy discharges of theta radiation. And it's something that right now doesn't pose any threat to the Congo and its crew. But if you take a direct hit, or if that creature gets any closer, you're going to have a bad time.
So Lee, from his position in the command chair, then would turn to Ensign Rowan. Damage report? Have they actually opened fire on us?
No, sir. The initial rock that brought you all up here was a random discharge from those tentacles, sir.
Keep us at a safe distance, Ensign.
Aye, sir. Backing us off. And we sort of have a brief glimpse outside of the Congo, moving away from the approaching space squid as it approaches the planet. And she's still keeping the Congo somewhat in between the two, but she's kind of looking to you for direction at this point, Captain Lee. Doesn't look like it's stopping, sir. Should I get us completely out of the way, or...?
Open hailing frequencies, but keep us between the planet and the creature.
Aye, sir. Channel open.
Probably not going to work, but... to the unidentified creature approaching Votov III, this is Captain Lee Tobin of the Congo. Are you capable of receiving and sending messages?
There's that pause. Rowan reports, I'm not getting anything back on any frequencies or channels or methods, sir.
Dr. Alel, can you get a scan of this creature? Perhaps the bioelectrical theta radiation discharges are some form of potential communication.
Aye, sir. Let me try.
All right.
Where am I rolling?
So, Dr. Alel, I'd like you to roll me a reason and either science or medicine. And let's make this a difficulty of 3. If you have xenobiology as a focus, that would apply.
Okay.
And let's say that the ship will assist you with a computers and science.
And you said difficulty 3.
Sorry, you got a little quiet there.
Did you say difficulty 3?
Difficulty 3, yes.
Okay. Do we have rollover momentum?
Yeah, you've got 4 right now.
Okay. Am I okay to spend one group?
Oh yeah.
1 or 3, go right ahead.
Okay. I'll do 1.
All right, survey says... Now that's already 4 successes. Let's see if the ship gets you another one.
Good job, Doc.
What's the ship rolling?
Computers and science. All right, looks like... All right, that's a total of 5 successes for 2 momentum. So I believe you're almost right back where you started. So what you realize, Dr. Alel, is the following. The theta radiation isn't a communication method. But, on a hunch, you run it against the scans that you took of the microfractures down on the colony. The theta radiation pattern is an exact match, meaning that the same theta radiation that caused the microfractures is the exact same frequency that the squid is generating.
Okay. Sir, it doesn't look like this is a communication method of any kind, but I did cross-reference it to the microfractures on the planet, and it looks like this radiation is the same that caused those fractures.
Are you suggesting that this creature is responsible for the damage to the colony, or that another one of these creatures may actually be on the planet?
Whether it's directly or indirectly responsible, I know that this creature was involved somehow.
Have your scans revealed any possible means of warding it off?
GM.
If you give me a momentum, I will answer that question.
Yes. I mean, I would.
Okay.
All right. So the answer is yes. Best you can tell, based on your knowledge of xenobiology and squids in general, if you find a way to spook it, perhaps by, say, detonating a photon torpedo in its path, it'll probably scurry away.
So am I like detecting a level of intelligence or not?
I would say that is something and this is, I'll give it to you free. You're not 100% sure whether it is purely acting on instinct or if there's an intelligence behind it. What I would say is that you just don't know. There isn't enough evidence one way or the other.
Okay. So I mean, I suppose a good old torpedo might do the trick. I'm not detecting any signs of sentient or sapient life.
I'm loath to resort to such a destructive means of warding it off. Commander Datig, what's your opinion on the possibility of using some sort of gravitic pulse from the deflector to disrupt the theta radiation? I know that it creates a kind of inversion in subspace that precludes warp travel. Perhaps we could almost brush it away by creating a subspace eddy or wake, a wave pushing it away from the shore.
It's certainly possible, Captain. However, we would have to get a little closer than we are now, and I think we have a very low margin of error.
Prepare to modulate the deflector. I'd rather avoid the possibility of injuring this creature. And out of character, GM, based on those two plans, is there like a margin of error that would result possibly in the harm to this creature that's different in one of the two areas, or mechanically, how would that play out?
So, I'm trying to figure out a way to codify this that doesn't, like, put you one way or the other. So, the first one, detonating a photon in its path, as long as you don't roll a complication, you're not going to hit the creature. And missing would be not bad, but it wouldn't have the intended effect. And that would just be a standard torpedo roll of probably just control security, assisted by the ship's weapons security, standard difficulty 3. I would waive the threat cost, so you'd be able to fire it for free. Modulating the deflector would probably be a daring and a science, and the ship would assist you with I'm thinking probably either a comms or an engines plus engineering, or maybe even science, and that would also be the difficulty of 3.
Then I'd like to adopt the more anodyne option if that's possible, or if that's what the group would consent to.
I mean, you're the captain.
I know, but out of character, we're not. I don't make decisions for the group. I make decisions for the crew.
I'm fine
Your discretion.
Whatever you go with, Captain.
Doctor, make the necessary modifications to the deflector. Jaro, I believe that you'd be most well equipped to assist her.
Of course.
It's a daring science. That's you.
No. Okay.
Well, whoever's doing the roll, whoever's doing the modifications to the deflector dish, again, I am going to need a daring science, and the ship will assist. Let's nail it down to engines and science here. I think that's probably the best combination. And again, difficulty of 3.
You want the ship to assist, or would Datig and Jaro make that roll?
That's entirely up to you all.
I was going to assist.
So daring engineering, perhaps, for John?
I would give daring engineering for Jaro.
Would cybernetics work?
Nah, this is a deflector, not a cybernetics thing.
Alternative medicine?
No.
You should definitely take a momentum.
Escape and avoidance.
I'll take a momentum.
I'm living for the day when a photon torpedo becomes a medical emergency medicine.
What specifically is she doing to it again? The deflector?
You're just modifying in a way to send out a gravitic pulse that will deter the creature.
Okay, like an air horn in space.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I got you one.
I'm using a momentum too. I do not have a focus.
Well, there's your 3 successes you need.
Okay.
So yeah, after Dotig sends over the modifications to Alel, and Alel and Jaro working together, you push the shiny red button, and visually outside what sort of happens is the deflector dish on the front of the Kongo glows red for a moment, and it sort of shoots out like a almost a bubble of red energy, and the red energy flies out maybe a few clicks out from the Kongo and then sort of disperses into a wave pattern that ripples across space. And when this, manufactured wave hits the space squid almost recoils reflexively and stops in its place and then turns around and goes the opposite direction away from the planet.
Fives, stand down from red alert.
Aye, sir. Red alert standing down.
Commander, can you give me some kind of report about the events on the surface? Do you have any insight into what we've just seen here, considering the correlation between the theta radiation produced by this creature and the ones that you encountered on the surface?
I can. It will be mostly speculative. But based on Dr. Alel's astute observations and what we witnessed in the colony itself, I happen to think that these people probably know a good deal more about what's causing these micro fissures than we were led to believe. Something tells me that we were lured here to deal with a problem they were ill-equipped to.
I must admit that's not the sense that I got from the director of this mining facility. She seemed genuinely concerned for the well-being of her people. Nonetheless, that might lead her to use us as a proxy to defend them.
And also we have to entertain the possibility that she doesn't have all the information.
True enough.
Although I don't know how you could miss something like that.
Captain?
Yes, Fives.
If I may, I have a hunch. Given the proximity in time to the incident that occurred on the planet involving our beam out and the appearance of the creature, I would like to cross-reference the scan of the creature and see if anything like that energy signature is on the planet.
Very good. A liaise with Dr. Alel. I believe that she would be best equipped to assist you in the identification of any biological or life form readings on the planet that correlate with this creature.
Yes, sir. Doc?
Yeah, what do you need?
Let's push some of these buttons and do something cool.
Garo
Okay.
actually laughs a little bit.
I'm, because I want this to be a revelation in character, I'm actually typing up a very quick note for you, Dag, in Discord.
All right.
Captain.
So if we... Fives is just going to be talking to himself at a station.
Captain, there is another possibility, I believe. Perhaps this creature is some sort of migratory grazer. Perhaps there's a food supply on the planet, or it could be a breeding site, a nesting site.
If that's the case, then the theta radiation we've detected on the planet could be indicative of hatching young. Although that is, again, entirely speculative. We would need closer sensor scans of both the planet and the creature.
And Oh, no, never mind.
Actually, Jaro, I was going to call upon your opinion. If you might be able to modify the sensors to enhance their resolution to determine if this is the case. But if you had another suggestion, I would be happy to entertain it.
Well, actually, two. Just because she's the leader of the colony doesn't necessarily mean that she's in charge, number one. And number two, yes, she may very well be concerned with the well-being of the people in her colony, because she knows what kind of force they're up against.
a valid consideration. I think we're going to have a more extensive conversation with the director.
Captain,
Are you saying this? Wait, hold on.
do
Doc,
do you
sorry.
want to tell him, Doc?
Wait, okay. With my own two eyes, you're seeing this too.
Yes. In full spectrum, I'm seeing what you're seeing.
All right. You can break it to him.
Captain, it would seem the speculation amongst the bridge is confirmed. I'm reading thousands of similar life signs, albeit much smaller. It's almost like this is a nesting ground for the life form. These are, I can't tell for certain, but it's almost like a batch of eggs for sea turtles.
Have mining activities possibly imperiled these infants or eggs?
I cannot tell without better readings. I'm only picking up life signs. I don't know if there's any dead among them. We'd have to get down to the planet, but we would probably need to be inoculated against the theta radiation to do so, and probably have to infiltrate our way to the areas they don't want us to see.
All right, so 4 radiation inoculations coming up. Let's get in our suits. You can go down there. Right, Captain?
That's somewhat presumptuous, Doctor, but you're quite correct, save for the number of inoculations. I would recommend that you take a pilot with you, if Ensign Jaro doesn't want to assume that responsibility. Please take Ensign Prin.
Prin?
I'll go. They might need some engineering help as well, sir.
Very good, Ensign. Nonetheless, we're operating on the assumption that the director is aware of these creatures. I don't believe that's justified.
True, sir. But if we can get proof that the operations are harming these creatures and their leadership is benevolent, they may cease operations until we can find a suitable solution.
GM.
Yes.
Did we learn that the Federation is contracting this mine?
I mean, that is something that was established last session, yes, where they are technically a civilian operation, but Starfleet heavily traffics with what they're selling.
Ah. Okay.
And, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking out loud. Go ahead.
Have we localized the source of the life form readings? In other words, is it somewhere near the mining facility? Is it diffused or throughout the planet?
Just give me 1 second.
I was going to say, give me a momentum. I will answer that question.
I was just going to bring up the readings up on the main screen.
And what I would say, when you put it up on the main screen, what you see is that it's almost like a spaghetti map of just like little dots that have been overlaid over the entire map of the colony. But as you sort of start to lay layers on top of one another, you all realize at the same time what's going on here. The microfracture map lines up exactly with where the life signs are coming from.
That's a lot of eggs.
Ensign Rowan, I would like you to contact Starfleet Command, have them dispatch a vessel capable of transporting the entire or full complement of this facility as soon as possible.
I'd be happy to, sir, but I don't know of any vessel that's going to be able to carry a mining bit like that.
Well,
we don't need the equipment, we just need the people.
Exactly. The Kongo itself can carry about 150, so we'd only need another 200 or thereabouts.
Do you want me to make this priority 1, sir? I could probably have someone transwarp out here very quickly.
Please do so.
Aye, sir. And Rowan begins sending off that priority 1 message.
Commander, did you have something to add?
Normally, I wouldn't advocate a position like this. but it may be better, Captain, if you command the away team.
I see the logic in that, Commander. Would you remain on board, or would you wish to remain on board to command the ship?
I would. What I'm most interested in is what the ship's sensors can tell me with a little time. I know that we have pressing concerns, but the opportunity for a study of a space-based organism is, well, unique.
Indeed, the Federation has only encountered creatures of this sort on a few rare occasions. I understand that the dictates of the Federation Charter and your own scientific curiosity, Doctor.
Quite so.
If you wish to remain behind, I would be amenable to it, although that is incredibly unorthodox considering our recent experiences.
Well, with all due respect, sir, sometimes orthodoxy is overrated.
And what's the worst that could happen?
I wish you had not said that.
Doesn't tend to end well. Very good, Commander. I will leave you in charge of the continued investigation of the data that we have collected on this creature. If it returns, please try to drive it off until such time as we're able to evacuate the colony or find some alternative solution.
Yes, sir.
Ensign Rowan, open hailing frequencies to the colony.
Aye, sir. Do you wish to take it on the bridge, or do you want to have this in your ready room?
The bridge will do, Ensign.
Very good. She taps a few buttons, and moments later, Director Sog appears on screen. Now, since it's been a while, I'll go over Sog's description again. So Sog is an alien species, or a hybrid, that you're not quite really able to nail down. She's blue like a Bolian, has the ridges of perhaps a Denobulan or a Klingon. It's one of those things where you could probably just scan her and find out, but it's that Star Trek thing where you never assume or actually scan people and find out what they are. But what is most important is Sog's expression. And she is wearing a face of noticeable concern as she appears on screen. And she very quickly cuts to the chase and says, Captain, we detected that you managed to scare off whatever the hell that was. What's going on up there?
Director, we have encountered some form of spacefaring life form that appears to be using this planet to gestate its young, or to use it as a clutch for its eggs.
And she kind of thinks of that over for a moment, eyes darting between the view screen and something just off to her left, and she says, "These creatures, we've never heard or seen any sign of them. Can you be more specific? Where are they supposedly located?"
And out of character, is there anything that I can do to sort of make an assessment of her emotional state, her psychological state? I mean,
An
obviously
insight check,
you've role played it out so that I've picked up on it, but in character, can I do that?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's basically an insight check. So go ahead and roll me a insight in either command or con, difficulty of 1. And I think if you've got people reading or anything of like diplomacy, those could apply as focuses.
I do have diplomacy.
Ooh, I might have something to help as well. I have insightful guidance.
Let me check that talent real quick.
Whenever you assist a character who is in a social conflict using your knowledge of psychology or emotional states, the character is considered to have an advantage.
Yeah, I would say if
Also,
Alel wants
cultural
to...
flexibility too.
That's right. So I think, Alel, you chipping in, you could assist with your own insight command or insight con. And yeah, I would say with that advantage, the difficulty actually becomes 0.
Very nice.
I have cautious command, so I'm going to spend 1 momentum to roll 3 dice.
Okay.
With an applicable focus.
All right, well, there's 1. You can reroll one of those zeros if you wish.
I think that I will.
We
I was
literally
gonna
went
say,
from a
don't
0.
do it. I really was.
Yeah. Should have
All right,
known.
so we'll take that
You were
first
already
one.
successful, damn it.
So that's going to be 2 successes, which is 2 momentum, but a complication as well. I'm actually going to bank that complication, and don't worry, Chad, I did see you redeemed a complication earlier. I'm saving the 2 complications for a good something down the line. But what I would say is that Alel and Lee come to the very same conclusion. The director is being earnest, she's being forthright, and is otherwise believing what she says to be true. She does not appear to have any hidden knowledge or anything that would indicate that she knew of these creatures before this moment.
Well, Director, I'm sure that you appreciate the position that we find ourselves in.
Yes, well, don't get me wrong, I don't want to cause undue harm to any living creature, but if I understand where you might be going with this conversation, Captain, I'm not so sure abandoning the colony is a good idea.
Respectfully, Director, our duty is to preserve life wherever we find it.
Which, again, I'm not really Starfleet, so you run things differently, but my understanding is that without the benamite that this planet and this mining operation produces, the entire Babylon fleet is going to have to go back to regular warp, and you only have the 1 vessel capable of transwarp. It would severely limit your operational range out here in the Sabine Expanse.
Morality is not based on consequentialism, Director, but you're right. If we can avoid the abandonment of this facility, we'll certainly take every opportunity to do so. If you would permit us to return to your facility, we'll try to investigate the matter further and find an alternative solution.
If I may, sir, Director, is there some other reason why you're hesitant to abandon the colony besides profit?
Other than the fact that if we abandon it here, we can't take the drill bit with us. It was assembled on site, and making another one would be a significant investment, one we probably could not afford.
Any more altruistic motives?
And she kind of looks at you a little bit strangely. I'm not sure what I'm understanding you're implying, Doctor.
I'm just asking if you have any considerations that fall in line with Starfleet's ethics that we should be concerned about.
I mean, again, I'm not really out and doing, I'm not really doing business to hurt people or things, but I mean, I do have to keep in mind the people I employ. If we lose this drill bit in this mining operation, many of them are probably going to end up with the Orions or with the Gorn or any number of Nausicaans. I mean, it's one of those things where without the safety of this colony, a lot of people here are going to lose stability and safety.
Director, the Congo will do everything that we can to make certain that that's not the case. If there is an alternative solution, we'll attempt to find it.
Of course, and I'll prepare my office for a beam-in.
Very good. Thank you, Director.
And the view screen cuts off, and you are left with just those of you on the bridge.
I wonder at the possibility of relocating this nest somewhere.
Or relocating the mining operation. Surely if there's one deposit of benamite on the planet, there must be others.
Or suspending local functions until this batch hatches and vacates the premises. Certainly there might be a seasonal drilling where Starfleet just learns to ration and endure.
Given the damage that's been inflicted to the facility, Jaro, do you think that it would actually be able to maintain operation if we abandon it for a time until these creatures actually hatched or departed the world.
Depends on what's actually causing their problems. If whatever's down there continues to inflict this type of damage to the facility, no, it couldn't. It couldn't survive.
Doctor, Commander, as you continue your investigation into the creature, attempt to ascertain the effects of an attempt at transporting the creatures. Perhaps we might be able to remove them from the facility without harming them, but, well, it bears investigation.
However, if, as Mr. Fives said, there is a seasonal aspect to this, similar to the spawning of many aquatic species on many different worlds throughout the Federation and known space, they are compelled by biology to return to the place where they hatched to spawn again.
I wonder if I can determine a cyclical pattern to the fractures occurring on the planet. We could also check with the director and see if these have occurred in waves, as it were.
And I wonder, Doctor, if the intensity and repetition of the theta radiation is not directly tied to the gestation cycle becoming more intense and frequent as the creatures reach maturity.
We also know nothing of the actual mating and reproductive functions of this creature. It's entirely possible that it may only return to this planet a decade or even every century. This may be a unique instance where our presence on the world has simply coincided with its reproductive cycle. If it does operate on a vast timescale, we could just mine out this deposit after the current crisis has passed.
Yes, I wonder how close we are to capturing the full use of the planet. Like, are we at like 50% we've mined? More than that? GM, would we know that?
You could look it up.
Or would the director know that?
Yeah, you could either look it up or ask the director.
Okay.
I'd like to see whoever surveyed this world before planning the site. Surely there's some kind of indications there that these were present.
Well, to draw a comparison to Earth's sea turtles, if a sea turtle is disturbed when it is trying to lay its eggs, it will move on and deposit its eggs elsewhere. And even though it's not encouraged, in the case of sea turtles, you are able to move the eggs if you need to.
You bring up an interesting point. Captain, do you think it would behoove us to cross-reference these life signs with other worlds that we have discovered in the Sabine Expanse to see if this species has a biological range?
Or specifically look for any types of, even if it's old and innocuous, signs of the radiation that weren't necessarily found what the source was. Maybe there is some sort of correlation.
Indeed, we might be able to determine when it last visited this planet, if it did at all. Begin your investigation into the records of the survey patterns for this planet, and focus your attention on any theta radiation readings we might have uncovered on other demon-class worlds. It likely uses a similar environment to gestate its young.
Aye, sir.
All right. So with that, I believe that is the cue to do a scene change. And if I understand correctly, the away team beaming down is going to be the captain, Ensign Jaro, Dr. Alel, and Mr. Fives, or is Fives going to stay and help Dotig in the investigation?
I think Fives should go in order to obtain certified readings on a close-up scale, and then feed those back to Dr. Dotig for analysis.
Roger that. All right, in that case, we're going to transition to the conference room or the meeting room of Director Sog, and we see her sitting behind a desk, and moments later, Dr. Alel, Jaro, Lee, Fives, you beam in on the other side of said desk, And once you finish materializing, the director sort of stands up and says, nice to meet you in person, Captain, and welcome back, Mr. Jaro, Mr. Fives, Dr. Alel.
Director?
So, where do we begin on this? I'd rather have a peaceful resolution that kept the mining operation intact, but I can break the news if it turns out that it's not going to be something we can save.
I have requested that Starfleet dispatch a vessel capable of evacuating your complement. However, it will be some time before they arrive, and hopefully we can continue to ward off the creature without harming it. However, we do need to take more extensive sensor scans of the affected areas of the station, the creatures themselves as they are gestating, and we would like access to any records that you might have of previous incidents of theta radiation poisoning or anomalous readings that you've encountered. Perhaps we can establish a timeline of their development.
Certainly. I would be happy to get you that information. The only thing I would say is that so far I haven't told any of the other colonists and workers that this is a possibility, so all I would really ask is that you don't just, talk about it in a public corridor or ask people what they think of what's going on. I don't want to cause an undue panic.
A prudent course of action, Director, and certainly we will act with discretion as to the best of our abilities.
Very well. Well, there is one person I know that is more or less going to be neutral in this affair. I believe your away team is already familiar with them. Shatalik will be your liaison unless you need to come to me directly.
And she has not been apprised of the situation either, correct?
Correct, but I can fill her in before she comes and meets you.
I believe that would be the best, yes.
Very good. Well, if you're looking for an affected area, there's always that cafeteria your away team initially got caught in. And my understanding is there's also a myriad of microfractures throughout the facility that you could investigate as well.
Jaro, Alel, Fives, do you have any ideas as to where we would be best served beginning our investigation?
Looking at the scans, is there any sort of concentration or any sort of discernible pattern to the fractures?
An interesting question. Why don't you roll me a insight, and I think it's science more than it is engineering. So let's do an insight science on your point, Jaro, and let's make this a difficulty of 2.
All right, we'll do. We'll spend 1 momentum because, well, I'll need it.
Would I be able to assist with my sensor implant by feeding the biodata directly into my visual processor?
Yeah, I could say you could do that.
Do a control science.
And looks like Chad actually gave you momentum back as well. So all we really need to see is one success on Mr. Five's part.
Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, totally. Thank you, Chad.
Nice.
All right, so you do get the one you need. So Fives and Jaro working together, what you realize is... I gotta be careful here because I don't want to say things. Let's have you rephrase the question or restate the question so I make sure I'm telling you the right information. So what is your question specifically?
Looking specifically for a central, almost like a nexus point from which the fractures would potentially originate from. Almost like where is the location that the pebble went into the lake?
Okay. So if I understand correctly, because again, I want to be careful what information I feed you here. You're almost looking for like the epicenter of an earthquake to make the comparison.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so it is what I initially thought. I, again, just wanted to be safe. So what you realize is actually the drill part of the facility has no microfractures in it. In fact, that entire sort of area of the colony completely free of any theta radiation, of any sort of microfractures whatsoever. However, that is where it gets a little bit strange, in that sort of dead zone that sort of circles in almost a perfect circle around the drill bit. As you expand outwards, it's like a spiral galaxy in terms of shape and density of where the microfractures are located. So almost if you will imagine, the drill bit is the eye of the hurricane, and extending out from that is the spiraling arms of microfractures.
Sir, I think the initial location of our investigation should be the drill itself.
Can you elaborate as to why?
It is completely void of any of the microfractures or any sign of any sort of damage, and all of the damage seems to spiral out from that location.
I'm going to be really bummed if we discover that these life forms have benamite crystal shells.
Well, that would resolve the problem for us quite conclusively, I think.
Conclusively, but not to the benefit of Starfleet.
Materialistically, perhaps, but the preservation of life is to the benefit of the Federation overall.
It is, sir.
Well, we did, on the plus side, I mean, we could always ask Doteg to look at the scans we took of the vessel, but I think the only thing we detected from the vessel itself would be the radiation that we're sensing around here. So unless well, I hate to speculate that maybe the eggs are made from the crystal, but yeah, let's not speculate that way.
Surely they would have discovered that by now, if that was the case.
Well, depending on what the well, I mean, life comes in many forms, Doctor. It could be something that they've never seen before. It could easily be that the eggs themselves almost look like a crystal in its gestating form.
Well, that would be horrible.
If the director could provide us with a sample of the payload, we might be able to determine more conclusively if the speculation is warranted.
And I just like to imagine, because you guys never said you were doing it anywhere else, this entire conversation in the director's office in front of her.
Originally, Jara was going to be like, not answer the captain, but the captain asked him the question directly. So he was like, yeah, I might as well tell the captain right here.
So the director just sort of speaks up at this point and goes, just for the record, until you just told us now, we had no idea that the creatures were even a thing. And also for the record, if it does turn out that the benamite is their food source, or heavens forbid, them themselves, I will abandon this operation without a second thought. But I don't know. I just, again, I'm glad you did that in here and not out there in the corridors where anyone could hear you.
Yes, Director, that's precisely why we did it in here.
And like we said, we are trying our best to, and we will continue to try our best to be discreet. Just a
small thing. It's usually a little polite to include the person that you're... Okay, never mind. I'll get Shatalik. I'll get her on the horn. Where are you all headed? I'll have her meet you there.
The drill.
We need a close-up scan of the impact site around the drill.
All right, well, you're in luck. I've suspended mining operations for the day, so you have about 19 hours before they have to resume.
Director, might it also be possible for you to provide us with schematics for the drill and scans of its operation? It might be that there's something about the drill itself that has resulted in it being the epicenter of the, well, spiraling of the eggs.
I'd be happy to give you that information. And she kind of pulls up a data pad and swipes it, sort of swipes across it, and the data is transferred to one of your pads that you brought with you.
Very good.
Jaro's going to start scanning through the data, and he's
Mhm.
looking specifically for moments in time where there was any sort of report of the drill meeting additional resistance, time periods when the drill wasn't making as much progress, things like that, to where it'd be fairly common for the drilling team to just say, hey, we hit something a little bit more dense, let's switch this way, and not really think twice about it. But maybe we can get some sort of timeline by looking at that.
Yeah, that's perfectly solid. So what I would like you to do is roll me a reason engineering. I'm going to say this is a difficulty of 3. And I think as terms of focuses, if you have anything related to geology, to mining operation, any focuses like that would be perfect for this role.
That would be a negative, but I will use 3 momentum.
Okay.
And I'm also going to just go over to where 5s is and show him what I'm looking at, and explain to him what I'm trying to find out, and kind of hooking our pads together so that he can help as well.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, that's already 4 successes. And yeah, at
Want me to
5s,
do-
if you want to assist with your own reason engineering, maybe you'll get up to 5 or 6.
Want a reason engineering?
Mm-hmm. Now remember, it's only the 1 die for assists.
Right.
All right, that does get you up to 5 successes, which means you get 2 momentum back. So I can, of course, type this up in a handout if you want, but here's the general timeline of events. The drill comes online. It starts burrowing into... Because remember, and I'll even show you sort of the picture sort of to remind everybody. So the colony itself is actually situated on a rocky crag that sits above a large ravine of noxious gases. And this crag, or this spire, whatever you want to call it, it is one of the largest formations on the planet's surface. So it's almost monumental how large the drill bit is and how large this ravine is. But again, where I'm going with this is when the drill comes online, they spend maybe about a week, 2 weeks drilling through the crag itself. That goes pretty well. No problems whatsoever. Week 3, week 4 rolls around and they actually start hitting the crust of the planet. That goes moderately well. They have to stop a few times to readjust the drill, make sure that the feeds, taking the drilled material out of the drill shaft and handling it, they have to figure that out because that's, it's a new drilling operation. They have to figure that sort of thing out. That persists until about week 6. Week 6, they hit a large obstacle. They don't know what it is, but they try drilling through it a few times and then divert. And then everything's fine until maybe about week 13 when they hit another, big problem and they have to divert. And then that process repeats probably about every 2 or 3 months where they have to divert because they've hit something that they just can't get through. And what I would say,
the first time that microfractures were reported?
That's what I was getting to. The
Okay.
first time the microfractures are even noticed is the last time they had to divert. So we're looking at about a month and a half ago.
So Jaro, in his best technology speak, is going to lay that all out. Again, perfectly in front of the director, so that the director is aware and we're not trying to obfuscate our intention.
Of course.
Director, did you ever carry out any investigation as to the nature of these obstructions that your drill continued to encounter?
Yes, actually, we stopped mining operations for almost 3 days when we first encountered the first one. We just determined that it was a random batch of bedrock or other hard material. I actually might have a sample, and she kind of starts opening drawers on her desk, and she says, here we are. And she pulls out a almost like an opal about the size of a fist, and she kind of puts it on the desk in front of her and points at it and says, I mean, that's the material. Again, we didn't find any like egg. Like, I know where this is going. We didn't think it was an egg, or we didn't think it was biological in nature. It just, I mean, in the drilling business, sometimes you hit hard things and you have to go around them.
Oh, it's completely understandable, Director. I mean, new life can be something that, we haphazardly dismiss at times. That's even if this is the case.
Indeed. And Dr. Lell, would you mind investigating it and comparing it against our scans of the larger creature that we've encountered?
Aye, sir. She will take the sample and scan it.
All right. Since 5 is obviously doing the scanning as well, I'll give this to you for free.
Okay.
The hard material is unrelated to the eggs or to the creature, as in you can't find any sort of biological comparison between the two. But because I know this will excite 5s, what 5s notices is that this material is actually not as hard as, but pretty high up there. Like, it's like a pseudo-neutronium alloy. So again, not as hard to get as neutronium, but if the drilling operation figured out a way to mine that, they'd make a hell of a lot more money.
Sir, no biological similarities to the eggs.
I would like to send my readings up to Kongo for further analysis, Captain.
Of course. Director, what of the last deposit that you encountered? Did you take samples of that as well, or did you dismiss it as more of the same, in essence?
Well, since it was so far down and we couldn't send actual people down that far, when we couldn't get through it, we just assumed it was the same kind, yes.
I think that after we investigate the drill, that may be the next issue to consider. Other questions that we have for the director? Anything else that we would like to investigate with respect to computer files before we actually depart for the drill?
Just a note for the GM. 5s would encrypt that data regarding that special observation and send it directly to Lieutenant Commander Doddig's terminal on Kongo.
Has been noted. All right. But yeah, not hearing any further questions for the director, I think what we're going to do then is we're going to take a 5 to 10 minute break, and then we'll come back on a new scene. Before we go, though, I did want to say thank you, Anonymous, for the gifted subs.
Yay.
Thank you. But yeah, we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes. Stick around. All right, well, welcome back, everybody. We're mostly all here. Watney will be joining us when she can. But yeah, if you are just tuning in, basically the whole premise of tonight's episode is that the players are trying to figure out whether or not they have to relocate a mining colony, rather vital mining colony, because, well, maybe the space squid that they fended off at the top of the session might have laid its eggs here, and they're just trying to establish a timeline, series of events, things of that nature. So we rejoin our away team with you all in the main drilling room. And the main drilling room, again, since it's been a while, is a little bit impressive in terms of a feat of engineering. Particularly, what you're noticing is that while it is open air to the Class Y atmosphere, the force fields that are both around the drill and around the space itself are containing the atmosphere in quite well. And the drill itself is about as thick as the Kongo's secondary nacelle, or not nacelle, secondary hull, sort of that pod-like structure that comes in under the Kongo, where you have a lot of the experimental labs and things like that. And in general, since there is no mining operations for the day, the only workers you're seeing are those doing regular maintenance and, regular sorts of checkups on the drill itself. You do have Shatalik with you. Shatalik is, again, that female Endorian that is, I would say, melancholy about having to escort you all around, but she does her job and she does it well. And as she brings you into this space in front of the main drill bit, Shatalik sort of turns and says, well, we're here. Anything in particular you want to get your eyes on?
Jaro, is there something about the drill itself that might be somewhat abnormal? Something that might be of interest to us as we continue our investigation?
All I could start doing, sir, is taking some readings and trying to find out, because, I mean, one way or the other, the drill is... I can't find it being that the drill is the only thing that doesn't have these microfractures around it being a coincidence. So I think that there's, something going on here.
Indeed. Doctor, perhaps you'd like to assist him by cross-referencing the data that you have regarding these life forms to see if there's something that's being produced by the drill that might have warded them off or affected them in some way?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, well, we come to a very important choice, which I think I already know the answer to. Do you want a high difficulty single task, or do you want the extended task?
I always want the extended task, but,
Let's go extended.
Okay, then. I actually thought you were going to go for the high one, but what do I know? So... No, it's fine. I can do extended tasks all day. So the work track is going to be 14. The magnitude will be a 4. The starting difficulty will be a 4. There will be 1 resistance on this. And although I'm not really putting a time limit on, this extended task, just know that every attempt you make at scanning and figuring out the data will take 2 hours. And as a reminder, you can spend, before you roll, 1 momentum to make it only take 1 hour. So just keep that in mind. And the default task? For Jaro, let's make it a reason engineering. For Alel, it would be a reason medicine.
And if this was a single high difficulty task, probably of like difficulty 6, if it's a difficulty 4 extended task, what would the time frame be if we succeeded on that?
It would actually only be a difficulty 5 before any threat spend, and it would be probably about an hour, would be as much time as you would spend on the single difficulty.
Oh, then I'm with John then. I would recommend going for that, but
Do you want to go for the high difficulty? And we'll let LL take the lead.
What?
I think it would be cool.
Yeah.
Especially since it's potentially a medicine role. I think it'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what am I rolling?
Well, you're rolling me a reason and medicine. You have 4 momentum. You do have your determination. It is a difficulty of 5. You probably want to spend some of both.
Okay.
I just think it'd be cool to give the doctor a chance to really uncover something cool.
Right. Yeah, sorry. My cat is just like messing my shit up right now. She's
The cat is my complication for the evening.
She is absolutely a complication, aren't you? So
Truly
reason medicine. Right, that's what we said.
Yep.
So, and what's the difficulty of 5?
5, yeah.
Okay. So I'll spend a momentum.
That would give you 3 dice.
You should use 3 just out of gaming meta, I'll probably spend a determination on this one.
Okay, I will do that.
All right.
And
what
then-
value are you tapping?
I'm tapping rough and tumble doctor.
You're gonna have to go in a little bit more detail for me to be sold on that one.
Shit. Okay. So I'm challenging it, right?
Well, you're just using it.
Oh, What? Okay. Well, she's getting like her hands dirty and doing analysis, and she's way outside of her comfort zone in a laboratory.
I
Does that
find
work?
this funny, but let's do it this way. I'll let it happen, but regardless of the result of the roll, let's say that you almost have like a Kirk style tear in your uniform by the time you're done.
Yes, totally down for that. Okay, so I'm really bad at crunchy, guys. So
Yeah.
I'm rolling 4 dice. I'm spending 3 momentum.
You're going to end up spending 5 momentum, I think.
So how many dice am I rolling?
You're
still
going to roll
rolling
4 dice, but you're going to start with 2 successes because you're using determination.
Okay. Okay. And is xenobiology a focus?
It is indeed.
Okay.
That's the other reason I gave it to you, because I thought you would have a focus where I didn't. And can I assist her?
I would say yes, but I would increase the complication range.
All right, I'm just going to let the doctor do her thing.
Okay, all right. So we have 7 successes on the board with a complication. So here,
She does have cautious medicine.
that she does. You can re-roll that complication.
Do I want to?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you
So I
can
just roll
re-roll a
1 reason
complication.
medicine.
Yep.
Okay. With no focus. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
no, still with a focus. You're good.
don't know how this all.
All right, there you go. So
Yay.
you convert that complication into a success. So with a
Okay.
grand total of 8 successes, you get 3 momentum back. Alel, you think you know
You rock,
why?
Doc.
You think you know why the drill itself not only has been unaffected, but why the squid might have shown up. So you remember how you and Fives basically figured out the frequency of the theta radiation, the jolts that were coming off of the mama squid, quote unquote?
Mm-hmm.
The drill, when it's operational, produces vibrations on that same frequency.
Okay.
So in a way,
Vibrations on the same frequency, but of theta radiation. So it's like mimicking, like it's the same wavelength,
in a sense, yes.
but like calling out, like singing a song or something.
Actually, that was where I was going to go. It's almost like a whale song where you can figure out which whale is singing based on the frequency. So yes, it's not an exact match, but it's close enough that you're starting to get that connection.
Okay. And I'm really sorry, but I came in a little late. What
Mhm.
exactly was she asked to even do? Is she like super scanning the
Well, you're just basically scanning the drill, and you're just more or less, getting a sense for how it works and things
Okay.
of that nature.
Okay, so she's doing like a full analysis of this drill, not like the things it's drilling into, the drill itself.
Correct.
Okay. So she'll
Basically trying to figure out why the drill is the epicenter of the activity.
okay. So she will have, how long did this take, GM?
An hour.
Okay. So she'll have like spent the hour getting like really in the weeds, and like she's super, like her uniform's totally torn. She emerges, her hair, there's like rocks in her hair and dirt on her face. She's like, okay, I think I've got it. This is gonna sound crazy, Captain.
Most things you say sound crazy, Doctor, but please do go ahead.
Nonetheless, I hope you appreciate them. But so the frequency that this drill produces when it is on is the same as that of theta radiation, leading me to the conclusion that the creatures we encountered in orbit may view this drill as a sort of instrument or even other organism playing like a song, singing to it, if you will.
Well, at the very least, you've given us a possible means of communicating with these creatures, at least on a rudimentary level. Excellent work, Doctor.
Thank you.
Are you damaged?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
In fact, and she grabs Fives by the shoulders and shakes him. She's like, I've never felt better.
You got rocks in your hair.
Yes, I do.
Is that it? Okay. That's just your thing now. Cool. New aesthetic.
And Lee, I think, very subtly would try to take out his tricorder and scan Alel to see if she's all right, because she is acting in a slightly aberrant manner.
I mean, unless Watney wants to introduce anything, yeah, Lel's fine. I mean, maybe a little high on endorphins, but fine.
So how do the vibrations correlate to the maybe the life sign readings that we thought we had on the ship?
Well, if you give me a momentum, I can answer that question.
Take it. I don't need it.
How much momentum do we have?
Yeah,
You
you've
got
got
a lot
two
off
at the
that
moment
one
after
roll
such
that
a
you
spend.
did. So
Okay.
All right. So what I would say, Fives, is based on, and this is just a guess. It's not you don't know for 100% certainty, but an educated guess. You think that again, the reason the drill is not host to microfractures is because the life signs, the quote-unquote eggs, are more or less I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. You know how in an aquarium, how sometimes certain organisms will gravitate towards the pump or the heater that you have in the tank? It's something similar where the eggs are trying to crowd around the drill without affecting the drill, if that makes any sense. So they are crowding around what they view as a heater or what they view as like flowing water.
the vibrations are somehow sustaining their nascence.
It's a lullaby.
They might even think that
That's-
it's something akin to their mother's voice.
Alel, that's amazing. You're going to write a paper on this. Please write a paper on this.
Oh, I am. Right after I finish the 3 I'm working on.
Jaro's going to look through the data in the pad about the drill activity and the microfractures. Do they occur mostly when the drill is off?
They do, yes.
So Jaro's like, and that makes perfect sense because when the drill's running, I don't see any signs or any reports of any microfractures during drill activity.
So are they like calling out for?
It's almost
The
exactly
sound?
like what LL said. When the drill's on, they're asleep, like a lullaby.
Okay, there's like half a dozen papers published on this kind of phenomenon that we just totally need to revamp now.
Jaro, would it be possible to create something that would emulate the vibrational frequency of the drill in a harmless fashion? Something that might continue to placate these creatures. And Lee would say this under the assumption that they are sort of sufficiently away from any of the remaining workers so that they cannot overhear.
Yeah, I think at this point, Shatalik has gotten the vibe that she needs to like fend off her fellows, and she's like actively intercepting people when people get too close and like shooing them away, kind of a thing. So you have a reasonable expectation of privacy, yes.
What? Can you hear me? Okay. What if we, and this might be far-fetched, but what if we find a way to mimic this frequency and draw them away from the drilling site?
I was thinking about that exactly, kind of like a Pied Piper.
I think that was what I just asked Jaro to do, Doctor.
No,
I
no,
appreciate
make it
that
so-
idea, but
Oh,
Yeah. And I think it's possible. It might take me a little while to get it done, but if I could ask for Five's help, sure, we can get it done pretty quickly.
as you're working on that, I believe that it would behoove us to investigate the potential source of these, fluctuations. Shatalik, would it be possible for us to somehow get deeper scans or gain access to materials drawn from the last pocket of material that you had to divert the drill around?
Well, that would be a little difficult. I mean, obviously we have exocomps and other non-organic beings that can go down into the drill shaft in a safe manner, but to get to the last diversion, you're talking going down easily 6-7 kilometers.
There's no way to transport an exocomp down to that area, or
Not unless you want the exocomp to come out like looking like a ball of spaghetti. Which, by the way, we do recognize exocomp rights. They are legally entities of the Federation, protected under the statutes, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I read the pamphlet. You can tell the director I told you.
officially contracted, gainfully employed. Yes.
Yeah,
Very good.
you got it.
Mm-hmm.
We could equip the exocomp with the transporter enhancer and give it autonomy over those frequencies so that it can make adjustments during transport. If that was something that we thought about wanting to do.
I mean, you'd have to sell it to an exocomp, but sounds good to me.
Surely there's some kind of ferry that can be taken down to the drill site.
Well, again, we're easily 8
Oh.
clicks down at this point.
Out of character, GM, how long do we think it would take to set up this artificial sort of simulation of the frequencies produced by the drill?
Well, that would depend if you want an extended task or a high difficulty single task.
A difficulty single task.
Yeah.
Okay. So this would
And
definitely...
also comparing the vibration frequency of the drill itself
Mhm.
to any of the vibrations that we heard from the life sign vessel-ish type thing in space.
Mhm.
Are they exact matches, or is there a way that I could potentially even make it more of a match? Because my concern is once the drill's back on, I
They're
want
just going to come back.
I want our quote unquote crybaby to be the main source of the attraction.
I gotcha. So, and I'll give this to you free before you do the roll, but let's actually put some numbers on the table. So the drill, let's say, is making a frequency of 7.1. The creatures, the eggs, are making a frequency of about 7.3. The quote-unquote mother squid is a 7.5, 7.6. So it's all still within that 7 range, but the closer you get to 8, the more it's like their mother.
And that would be the goal, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Now, the reason I'm putting it out like that is that you have to make a difficult decision here. For every 0.1 you go up, that is the difficulty. So, for example, 7.2, difficulty 1, 7.3, difficulty 2, 7.4, etc., until you get to 7.6, which is a difficulty of 5.
We'll go full out. Why not?
Okay. In that case, Jaro, I need you to roll me a daring and an engineering, difficulty of 5. If you have anything related to experimental technology, anything related to... I would actually say jury rigging would not apply here, because you
Also,
want
I
this...
wouldn't want to use it because I want it to be a long-term solution.
Exactly,
So,
you got it.
yeah.
I would say anything related to maybe even power systems. I could give you power systems here in a way. I'd also give you geology. I'd also give you mining. I'll also take pitches for any that you think might fit better.
Feeling that I'm going to be creating this frequency using some sort of technology, is there a way that I could basically... what I'm going to try to sell you on is either making the vibration through use of some sort of energy-based technology, so that I could use energy-based technology, or transporter technology, or warp field technology.
You know
Basically,
what?
creating a small stable warp field that generates this frequency.
That's actually where, once you said it, I think, yeah, I could give you warp field in that context.
Okay.
And remember, it is difficulty 5. You may wish to spend determination and momentum and or threat.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to do the same thing LL did. We're going to get 4 dice. I'm going to use determination, and I'm going to use my value of shut up, I'm rescuing you.
All right. Well, I'm going to spend that threat you just gave me because you didn't have quite enough momentum to cover it all. I'm going to spend that threat to increase the complication range to a 16 to 20.
Oh, yay. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
No, don't ask for that.
2 quick questions before he makes that roll.
Yes.
The first is basically a logistical issue. Have the creatures actually demonstrated the capacity for motion?
I would say you haven't seen anything to indicate that quite yet.
So maybe before you make that roll, John, we could look into that, because if our plan is to draw them away, if they can't move, it's sort of a moot point.
I agree.
What if we called Datig and said, hey, create a mimicry or something of the frequency from the ship, from the deflector?
I like where your head's at.
I could try
it. Captain Lee to the Kongo.
Datig here. Go ahead, Captain.
Doctor, we believe that we've ascertained the nature of the life forms on this planet and the reason why they have congregated in the areas that they have. It seems that the drill is producing a particular frequency. Everything all right there, Watney?
Yeah.
Seems that the drill is producing a particular frequency that placates them or attracts them, and they have congregated around the drill as a result. We're not sure if they can be coaxed away from the facility, if they're even mobile. Could you potentially recreate the theta radiation frequency of the drill in an alternate location, or derive some means of ascertaining whether they can be, whether they have the capacity for motion?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, modifications to the deflector are already underway, as Mr. Fives has kept me up to date on all happenings.
Very good. I assume that you were actually going to act. Please, go ahead, Doctor.
All right.
Sometimes the best thing a
job,
GM can
Doctor.
do. I was going to say, sometimes the best thing a GM can do is just let that awkward silence fall.
Just nothing. Very well, sir. I've selected the site 7.5 kilometers from your current location. Please stand by. And, yeah, GM, let me know what I have to roll or do, or...
Actually, what I would say is that since you've had time to do this and you more or less have been kept in the loop by Fives, I'll give it to you free. So what happens is outside, in the upper orbit of the planet, we do see the Kongo begin emitting a deflector pulse towards a location near the drill site. And when all of you in the away team back down at the drill site proper, when you pull out your tricorders, what you notice is that the creatures, the eggs, are indeed beginning to move in the direction of this new lullaby, as you put it. Now, they're very slow about it. It's probably going to take them about a week or two to actually get to that new location, but they are moving.
Captain, they are moving, albeit at a... snail's pace. They'll reach the new site in... Sorry, GM, I missed what you said, like 2 weeks?
Couple weeks.
Yeah. In 1.68 weeks.
I imagine that the director can be convinced to suspend operations until such time as they reach a suitable location once we establish the more permanent solution. Thank you, Commander. You've been of great assistance to us.
Of course, sir. Shall I maintain the beam?
Until such time as the, I don't know, Crybaby, I believe it was, that Jaro mentioned, is operational. Please do so, yes.
Understood, sir. Please contact me if you require further assistance.
One last thing, Commander. Are the creatures in their motion causing any adverse effects to the facility? Are new microfractures opening up around them?
GM, I don't have any momentum to get you to answer that question.
You would have to roll for it, yes.
I will gladly. What would
right.
you like me to roll?
Datig, I would like you to roll me a Reason Engineering, assisted by the ship's Sensors Engineering, difficulty of 2.
I'm horrible at engineering.
I know, that's why it's great.
Oh, the ship is rolling a...
Sensors Engineering for the ship.
GM, I would like to use my determination.
Okay. Which value?
I am going to tap my value first, do no harm. Well, we want to make sure that these creatures are safe. We also want to make sure that the structural damage is mitigated as much as possible to safeguard the lives of the miners and colonists in the facility.
Solid enough information for me. Go for it.
All right.
All right, that is 3 successes. And let's see, did the ship roll yet? The ship hasn't rolled yet. So you're already going to succeed. It was only a difficulty of 2, so you already have 1 momentum on the board. Then Dag, were you getting the ship?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so just the 1 momentum on the board. So what I would say, Datig, is some areas of the microfractures are getting worse, but it's because the creatures are almost single-mindedly taking the shortest route, meaning that they are going almost in a beeline towards this new crybaby source. So it's going to cause some damage in some areas, but it's not a universal thing. So it's almost like putting water on one side of a wedge. Like the water's going to go one way and some of the water will go another, but it's all going to end up at the end location at the end of the day.
Sir, we may want to consider evacuating Habitat D. Sensors are showing that this section is most affected by the microfissures.
I see. Please liaise with the director of the facility and provide her with our sensor data so that she can effect an evacuation of the affected areas.
Understood, sir.
Very good. Well, Jaro, it seems we have our answer. You may proceed.
Yes, sir. What I would suggest is let me just do a few more calculations here to find a suitable spot for their new nursery. So Jaro's going to look at all the data and find out what kind of radius the microfractures are in around the drill itself, and he is going to figure out a site that is at least twice, if not 3 times, that distance from the facility. If possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You have what, 1 momentum right now? 2 momentum?
1.
Just the 1.
Well, we had 2, but he spent those to get the dice that he hasn't actually rolled yet.
Oh, yeah.
So, in a sense, we're at 3.
Let's do this. If you give me a momentum and a threat, I will say you can create the advantage, and such a location will be readily available.
Okay. Sure.
All right. So yeah, you find a similar crag that is above that sort of noxious gas ravine. It's almost a full hemisphere away, but again, it should be something very easy for you to set up in that location.
So I think I found a suitable um, relocation site for them. I'll go ahead and get started on the work there, Captain. Fives, if there's any way that you can help me with this, well, let's just try it.
All right. Time for that difficulty 5 roll to see if the crybaby is a thing.
Boom!
All right, that is indeed.
And that is with the complication range changed on the sheet to a 16.
Okay. Well, wait a second. If that's the case, shouldn't that 0 have been a complication? Because you're rolling under a 16.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so that was a 17. So, I mean, right now you are succeeding. You do have 6 successes with a complication.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's what I'm going to offer you then.
That's weird. I wonder why that didn't work. Why that didn't take.
Yeah, that's a little weird. We'll have to investigate that later. But what I will offer you is, and this is where I've been saving my complications, what I will say is that you all can create a crybaby at this new location, and it will last a long period of time. However, the only thing the Kongo has that will produce that much of a signal and that much power is your secondary hull, meaning the pod underneath the Kongo. So if you are willing to give up that pod, and you, of course, can go back to Deep Space October and get a new one. But if you are willing to give up that pod for an adventure or two, you can do this.
Captain, I've got all the calculations figured out, but, well, we're going to have to cannibalize the Kongo just a little.
Can you elaborate? How would that affect our mission profile?
I would recommend that we go back to DSO and get the secondary hull replaced after I use it for this purpose. But, preservation of life and all.
Jaro, I appreciate your innovative approach to the solution to the problem that we have found here. Unless there are any objections, make it so.
Yes, sir. And he just quickly looks around at everybody, just waiting for them to potentially speak up if there is an issue. But other than that, he's going to communicate with his engineering team and have them get what I need.
Fair enough.
And I'd like to think, sorry not to interrupt you, Mike, but
No, you're
almost
fine.
as soon. Captain, your comm badge will chirp.
Lee, go ahead.
Captain, I just got a requisition request for the sensor pod on the dorsal hull.
Actually, I think that should be for the entire secondary hull.
I'm sorry, sir. Do you mean the entire engineering section?
The entire mission pod, yes.
Very well. I just wanted the confirmation that I was not going mad.
I am afraid that I'm no longer a physician, Commander, nor are you, so neither of us is actually in a position to confirm or disconfirm that possibility. You'd have to speak with Dr. Alel.
Yeah, and Alel is still like digging around in rocks and stuff, so she's probably not in a good position either.
Although, judging from her current demeanor, she may actually need such an assessment carried out on her as well.
All right, I'll see to it, sir. However, I'd recommend after the pod detaches, we maintain a speed of warp 8 or below to prevent us from shaking ourselves apart.
A wise precaution. Very good, Commander. Please.
I'll see to it. Congo out.
And it is at this point that we're actually going to do a time
Jaro,
skip here.
Jaro
Oh, go
looks at the Jaro looks at the captain after that exchange, and he's like, "Just remember that he got a D double plus in engineering."
ahead.
Lee to Congo, please
D
prepare
double
for my
minus.
imminent return.
So we're actually going to do a time skip here, and it's one of those good time skips where that hopeful trumpet plays in the background, and we sort of see that the Congo now sans its mission pod is, floating in orbit. And where we're going to actually cut is to the Congo's ready room, where Captain Lee is entertaining the director in person. So, Captain Lee, of course, you're seated behind your desk, and Director Sog is sitting in one of the chairs opposite you. And she finishes sipping her drink and sets it down and says, "I must admit, Captain, your people do good work. I just wish it didn't have to be at the expense of your beautiful vessel, but your crybaby, as you call it, it seems to be doing just well. We've noticed about 90% of the creatures have relocated."
And Lee will set down a pad that shows a design schematic of the Congo with the mission pod removed, and he'll actually just glance down at it for a second. Actually, I think the ship looks a lot better without that bulbous underbelly, personally. But you're welcome, Director. The Federation's primary mission is to preserve life and, well, to seek it out wherever it might be found. We've done that today, and, well, I think we can all be proud of that.
I just have one question for you, Captain. What's going to happen when we actually turn the drill back on? Aren't they potentially going to get it confused? I mean, is there something we could do differently with our drill to maybe not entice further? I don't think we ever gave these things a name. Further squid?
First, I would recommend strongly that you not activate the drill until the migration of these creatures has been completed in full. Once they're at such a substantial distance, even the activation of your drill for a long period of time should not draw them in again. Secondly, if possible, try to alter the vibrational frequency of the drill. That should, produce a more discordant melody that would incline them to remain where they are.
I think we can do that. Out of character, it is at this moment I have to ask Dag a question. Remember that information I gave you about those things in the drill corridor that they hit?
You mean the Tatronium?
Whatever we want to call it, yes.
Named after Paul Tate, AE5s.
So, would you have told or let that information get to the captain at this point?
There was probably a discussion during the timey-wimey skip between Fives and Dodig, basically getting confirmation that this was not just perhaps a new element, but also one that would not inflict any further harm on the local ecology if it was mined, and then to draft a proposal to Starfleet to investigate mining it through the agency that's already existent.
All right. If
As
that's
long
the
as my
case,
fellow Dodig is cool with that.
Of course.
all right. If that's the case, then I think it would be fair for me to say is that Captain Lee, you know all of that. The director does not yet.
Now, Director, there is one last matter, provided that you don't have any other concerns, that I'd like to address with you.
Well, I mean, we're sort of out of ice cream sandwiches, but besides that... It was a joke. Sorry, we can replicate... You were saying, Captain.
Yes. During the course of our investigation, we have come to understand that, well, quite frankly, you are probably in possession of more valuable mining rights than you were aware of.
And she actually kind of gets a little more rigid and leans in and she says, "Really? What do you mean?"
I have here a draft proposal for a joint operation between the Federation and your mining consortium. An extension of the current relationship that exists between our two parties.
Well, you
And-
had my attention, you now have my curiosity. Or is it the other way around? I don't know human... You know what I'm saying, Captain.
Well, quite frankly, human idioms and expressions oftentimes confuse me as well. It's not just a matter of the universal translator either.
Oh, good. I thought I was going crazy there for a moment.
No, humans are just a really rather interesting species.
Sorry, you were saying, though.
Well, and he will slide the pad towards her, and it will contain a proposal regarding joint access, given that the Federation was the ones to actually discover the utility of this material, to the deposits, such that the Federation now has primary supply rights to the deposit, along with, in sort of like an extension of the agreement that we have for the mining of the benamite crystals.
I think the director looks at it for a moment and says, Tatanium? Is that what we're calling this?
I think that's another one of those human oddities. They have a fixation on posterity and legacy, naming things after themselves, and coming up with the most bizarre appellations.
I mean, hell, you could call it whatever you want. If it's making me this much money, call it, I don't know. And as the conversation continues, we actually zoom out of your office and we see the Kongo, again, sans mission pod, just floating above the planet. And that's where we'll end our little 2-part session. That's been a long time coming. So yeah, what did you guys think?
That was great.
Great.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
That's a Star Trek episode.
I love the conflict. I mean, like the choice and the ethics.
Good stuff.
And it was one of those things where I was like, oh no, did I give them too many red herrings? Because there was a moment you guys were like talking about infiltration and like skulking around, and I'm like, oh no, I've told them the completely wrong things.
Let me put them in peril and get them back on the ship and start over.
We have a private chat where we're like, how can we say stuff to throw Mike off but not do that?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for the game, GM, as always.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let me just quickly go through any alerts. Let's see. So, of course, we had Anonymous with 5 gifted. Thank you for that. We had Chubby Kobold with the bits. Thank you for that. Wadney, you subbed for 8 months. Thank you for that as well. And yeah, with those shout-outs done, this is where I'm going to end the stream for YouTube. But for Twitch, stick around because and there's another 1,000 from... Thank you, John. This is where YouTube's going to cut off, but Twitch, stick around because we're going to raid somebody. But YouTube, see you later.